you mentioned, Logan, that some of the best analysis come from the radio. Um, I don't know if it's because he is also a radio guy, but you guys referenced Merloni. And I didn't want to stick this as a segment necessarily because I didn't want to put words in your mouths. Um, but I do think that this season has cemented for me that I think Merloni can be the heir apparent to Jerry Remy in this. I've always thought he was pretty good. I think he's been exceptional this season when you consider he's partially an employee of the team, works for the team's network. He's been very fair, very critical when need be, and I think that he's been a great example of how you can hold strong opinions without having hot takes. Like I thought that his observation last night, I believe, when Nesson showed Roman Anthony working out on fielding ground balls before the game. And, I know the intent there was to show, this guy's working and trying to improve. And I thought Lou had a very good point that, like, why is your number one prospect working on fielding ground balls now before his second game? And I think there's been a number of instances like that this year. So, I don't know if you guys are Lou fans or not. I've always kind of enjoyed him, but I've been really impressed with what I've heard from him so far this year.
That's interesting because I was listening to the radio this morning on the Sports Hub, and they were ridiculing the Red Sox for the Campbell or the Anthony stuff, that fielding practice stuff, and like there's a fine line between like practice and instruction, and I just assumed that it was practice, and I was like, these guys are being a little over the top with their criticism. But if Lou's saying it, like I also defer to the major leaguer, so maybe it is a little out of the ordinary. But um, I love Lou. I think Lou is perfect where he's a guy who is from the area, understands what it means. He doesn't he can speak the language, physically or I mean physically. What's the word I'm looking for? Figuratively, and like he has obviously that dialect. Like I say, knows how much it means to him. He's a guy who's been in the media before, obviously, so he understands the business. I think he's young enough too, and he's embraced other parts of media in a way that obviously Jerry never did, nor would he want to, or Eck or anyone else, or even Euclid. Honestly, he he does those videos where he's walking the dogs or whatever, and he's talking about it, and that's where you're getting the most honest opinion that he has in a way that like I think he knows he can get away with a little bit more on Twitter as opposed to saying it in a game. But he does go right up to the line more so than we've seen in the past with guys during game broadcasts too. So I think if you just take all of those variables and mix them together, I think he's like I don't want to blow too much smoke up his skirt, but like he's he's exactly what you're looking for. And like honestly, a guy like him, I think he's probably like what 50. He could do this for another 20 years if he wanted to, and he'd probably age gracefully into that. And honestly, if you want to take it even one step further, I think a guy like Will Middlebrooks is cut from the same cloth, where he's a guy who's done a lot of media. Obviously, his wife is in the media. He understands it. He played here. It seems like it's set up pretty nicely for the next however many years to have your two analyst on both the TV and the radio. But yeah, as far as Lou goes, I think he's exactly what they would be like right down to the fact that he's a small infielder. Like it feels like a perfect lineage from Remy to him. It's two local guys, two infielders, two guys who know the game well, journeyman. And like I said, I think the biggest thing about Lou when you go into this, whatever the media is going to look like in the next 10, 15 years, I think he just understands the business better than a lot of guys in his position.
Well, I hate to just echo what everyone's saying, but yeah, I could listen to Lou all day. The Twitter videos walking the dog are like the most insightful 3 minutes of Red Sox talk you'll probably get anywhere. And that's like with my role now, I listen to so much sports talk radio that sometimes like you got to get the more grounded perspective. And I will say, like, I remember when Lou left WEI, part of what he said was he was like, I was so tired of being angry all the time. Like you always have to be angry in that medium. And it seems like he has very like done an exceptional job of finding a way to like be in a medium that doesn't require you to be angry, but you can still like he's still candid. He still delivers it in a way that doesn't sound like he's trying to get a sports talk radio point across, but it's genuinely insightful. Like I think he's done a very good job of melding together the like player side of him that actually like experienced it, and the media side of him that knows what the game's about. Like there's nothing more annoying than someone either taking the Kendrick Perkins lane where it's like, dude, you played in the NBA, are you this much of a goofus about how it is, or the like JJ Redick lane where it's like, I know everything about this sport and you don't know shit. Like he does a very good job of meeting right in the middle there. And agreed on Middlebrooks too. Like I think that he's on the rise. I like him in the studio,
Yeah.
but if it were O'Brien and Merloni indefinitely, like I'm not a Millar guy. He's awful. Euclid, like I just find it annoying and not that compelling. And so yeah, I mean Merloni, it actually feels like when I watched Dennis Eckersley, not only was I entertained, but I felt like I was learning something sometimes, even if he was saying it in kind of his unusual way. And that's how I feel about Lou a lot of the time.
You know what? You know what's super interesting too is like, this is gonna sound like kind of, no shit, but he watches the game, and you don't always get that. I don't think. I think the Millar point is an interesting one, where I think, and like I get it too. I think Millar is brought in to do a certain role, and I think that's just what you're gonna get. And he's gonna come in and he's gonna tell stories about the '04 team when there's a break in the action, and that's that. Maybe that some people like that, and that's whatever. But like Lou, I've noticed this a couple of times this season, and I don't even mean this as necessarily as a knock on O'Brien, but O'Brien will basically just read whatever is on the pitch graphic. Either, I don't know if he's taking it from the stadium or from the broadcast, it'll be a sweeper or whatever. And Lou, and like as somebody who is somewhat informed about pitching, I will see that and be like, it just doesn't match up, like the velocity to the movement, whatever. And Lou will go, I'm not entirely sure. I think that might have been a cutter. And it's like, just that alone being like, that's, you're paying attention. You're giving me something a little bit different. You're not just reading, what's happening in front of you in the most basic way. Like, I think that's where this thing should be going. I think I'm trying to think of who. I think this might have been a Kirk Minahan take. Is like I subscribe to this theory. Like the future of broadcasting should be, especially in baseball, is like have a podcast while you're doing it. And like I just think Lou kind of weaves that really well, where he'll take what he sees and he can turn it around in a way that makes sense for you, for me. He doesn't sound like he's talking down to you, but he's also doesn't sound like he's just giving you, the pull the string in his back and he says a cliche or whatever, or he's like the pre-recorded video game stuff. So like I think he's really found a good balance in that regard.
My favorite moment with Middlebrooks this season, and the beauty is he does TV and radio, so I don't have to name who his partner was on this. But it was when they were not doing well, and I think they either like they didn't get a runner over, or like they didn't get a runner in from third with less than 2 outs or something. And his partner said, that's not what you like to see with a team that has the record the Red Sox have in their last 5 games. And Middlebrooks just goes, "You mean 0-5?" And I just loved it because it was that's like the most antiseptic way to put it. Your record in the last 5. It's like, no, they're 0-5. Stop saying like they have a tough record. I back you up. It's like I think that he and Lou, they get it. I think there's a fine line there where it's like on the one hand you have someone who sounds like 1970s, Anchorman announcer, or you have the ones who populate a lot of ESPN who are too much in the other way, that like sound like they came straight off a TikTok video. But both these guys, like, they use social media, they know the industry, they know popular culture, and they know that don't be sanitized. Like, if you're sanitized, that's the thing that really it harms your image, not just personally, but like of the entire Red Sox ecosystem.
That 5-game thing is a super interesting point, and I do think this is kind of tied into some of the stuff that we were talking about last week, or whenever I was on with you guys last, where it's like, I do think there's, and I know why it doesn't happen. Yeah, obviously, people are afraid of getting their ass chewed out on the team plane by Jackie Bradley or whoever. But like, I do think a little more of that tell me like that they're 0-5. Like, that's not a huge deal. Like, but that's like, that's what we're dealing with right now. Like, on this day, on June whatever, if they have lost 5 in a row and are 10 games back, things are not good. And it's okay for that. When I tune on the game, I want to hear people who see it the same way I do, or are gonna if
And
they're
tell
not
me why it's not
Don't
good.
patronize
Yeah.
me.
I know it's not
Right.
good. Tell me why.
no shit,
Explain to
man.
me.
Like I
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
like they're down 13-1. Like it's not going well, but like tell me a story or tell me why this matters to a guy in a game that shouldn't matter, and just tell me that yeah, things need to get better. Here's how they can get better, not just like things will get better because it's the Red Sox. Like that's, and this goes for all of media, obviously. Like I'm not even saying this is necessarily a Boston or a Red Sox thing. Is like, I tune on and watch a game, watch a Celtics game for Christ's sakes. It's just like, good God. But
Yeah,
so like,
unwatchable.
but I just think I would love to see somebody try it. I understand why it doesn't happen, but like these regional broadcasts or whatever is like, I just would, as a consumer, as a viewer, as a listener, I would respect it so much more. I would be more loyal to that media entity if you just told me how it was, and we just don't get. And I think these guys get as close as you can to kind of tie it all in.
It's kind of like that. He's a youngish guy, but the guy who got the play-by-play gig for the White Sox,
Yeah. Oh,
and
Benetti.
last year
Yeah.
yeah, and last year he was like giving really emphatic home run calls when they were getting like
Yeah.
killed and going to war with like other media personalities, and it's just like, hey man, like this team is historically bad. Like you should figure out how to articulate that as such.
Or just go back to the Orioles thing a couple years ago where the guy, what do you
Yeah.
say? Like he just pointed out the fact that they've been bad or they've got a tough stretch coming
Yeah.
up and he got almost fired. They had to bring him back or whatever. It's like
Yeah,
you do more
holy
harm than
smokes.
good by reacting that way.
Imagine what his job's like right now. So they're supposed to be good, but they're terrible. And so
Yeah.
it's like, man, how do you navigate that? I will say one just Lou Merloni story that I will share because you guys will be surprised that I think this is an endorsement of him. Is I remember in 2016, before the Red Sox opened their playoff series against Cleveland, which I think they got swept in, but it was the day of that series and I was starting and I was in the car, and this is October 2016, so this is a month before a very consequential election in this country. And so at the time the other hosts were talking about like Trump on Kaepernick kneeling or something like that, and you don't hear Lou for like 3 minutes. And then finally he's like, you know, the Red Sox open today, and we're sitting here talking about freaking Trump. And he just like goes on about, he's like, this is the playoffs. We've been railing on this team for however many years because they stink, and now they're here, and we're talking about all this is like whatever. And it's like, ordinarily I'd be like, well, yeah, because these things are more consequential than sports. But I was kind of like, yeah, man, I get it. Like instead of listening to Glenn Ordway and Christian Fourier spin their wheels on geopolitics, like why don't we just talk about something that we know you're actually good with and can talk about? Like,
I think that's actually an important distinction too with like Lou. And there's so many guys, and maybe Millar is this. I don't know. Millar, I don't doubt that he loves baseball, but Lou loves baseball. And like he does the job because he loves baseball, not because he's making X amount of money. So like that does, if you, that's like, especially with baseball, right? Like it's so, I mean, I'm going to tune into this 100 times a year. Like I'm going to pick up on this sort of stuff. And with Lou, you know what you're getting. It's authentic. He likes baseball. He doesn't like talking politics, which is interesting.
I like baseball.